What's going on, everyone? My name is Dudo and I'm the Goalie Gear Snob, and today I'm going to be re-reviewing another set of Scott Wedgewood Catalyst PX3 pads and blocker. And what do you know it? You can see the blocker right there, and I'm really excited to talk about these leg pads here, go over the history of when they were used, and talk about some of the modifications that I have done. So let's check them out. So I am starting off with these pads right here, and I am going to go across the history of what Scott was wearing this past year, last season with the Stars, and I'm going to talk about these pads right here. And yes, this is a white version of a PX3 pad, not an L12.2 pad. It is the PX3, and I'll go over how you can identify that. But when we start off and look at these pads here, these are absolutely gorgeous. This pad here is white, Dallas green, black with some silver accents and logos across them. And these pads here I did purchase directly from the Stars, but these are Scott Wedgewood's pads. And as I'm showing off some of the back of the pad right here, you're going to see some of the modifications that I have done, and I'll talk about those modifications a little bit later. But I do want to talk about the history of these pads, so I'm going to grab the other pad and show you the K. Whitmore signature so you can understand a little bit more about the Pro Return style of pads. So I am starting off with this gorgeous set of PX3 pads right here. These are Scott's from the beginning of the 2023-2024 season. They're in a gorgeous white, Dallas green, and black colorway with some silver accents across the logos and his embroidery up there in silver as well. And I did just want to point out that yes, these are from the beginning of the season, and how you can tell is from the signature that's on the side of the pads right here. So it looks like this is 9/15. Yep, looks like around there. So 9/15. So these are signed by K. Whitmore on September 15th, which is when he received them in the office. I know it just says signature. That's a date. This is a signature. The signature down here says KWLDS 45 NHL. So that's how you know that this was cleared by K. Whitmore to be used in the NHL. So every goalie does have their proportional limits that they're allowed, which is the LDS 45, which is what is, again, written right there. It stands for limited distance sizing, and then 45 is from the knee to your hip bone. You have 45% of that measurement. That's basically how tall your pad is allowed to be, which for Scott equals about to a 35-inch overall. And I'll break down the sizing of how he makes that work, but that's what that means right there. Also September, so early in the year, he did use these pads. And man, if these pads could talk and tell you how many different ways they've been strapped up and how many different ways they've been worn, we'd have a whole other video just on the pad strapping, but I'm going to try to do my best to summarize that here a little bit more. And so I'm going to put that pad down real quick, and I'm going to show you guys the blocker. And specifically, I did just want to call out that it was signed by K. Whitmore. He puts it on the inside nose of the blocker. So again, that's how you can tell that it was basically signed okay and cleared to be used in professional leagues. And also just want to give a quick little note here that this blocker was directly from Scott. It is brand new. I'm the first one to put some puck marks on it, and I absolutely love how this blocker looks, matches. Big fan of it. But now I want to get into the size of the pads, and I'm going to put this blocker down. So I'm showing you guys the back of the pads here, and I just want to show you that this is a PX3 pad, not an L12.2, despite with the thigh kind of being a little bit thicker. So the PX3 does have this Gen Pro that wraps all the way around the inside edge. The L12.2 does not. L12.1 does not. Even the 1 has the binding. 2 does not have a binding, but it does have full nylon across the back on the L12.2. But when you see this Gen Pro right here, that's how you know it's a PX3 style pad. But at the time that these pads did come out, it wasn't on the True's customizer that at the retail level that you could custom order the different thigh options. But now that is an option on True's customizer. It just happened to be that some of the NHL goalies had that option before it was available at retail. Nothing crazy there. That's been happening for decades in the NHL. But basically, that's what you're seeing here. This is the thick mid stiff thigh option. So I did just want to call that out right there before someone says that they are an L12.2. I have probably misspoke in the beginning of some of my videos in the beginning of the year before I realized that True had that new custom option coming out. So I do apologize on behalf of that. This is my kind of apology on that. But yep, this is a PX3 pad. Again, Scott is allowed to wear a 35-inch overall, and this pad here breaks down to about a 33 plus 2. Technically a 33 plus 2, we had some other special things done by True to kind of help with that. So as I spin it around, something I did just want to call out here is that when you're looking at the knee rolls of the pad and then looking at the knee block, it's a little bit tougher to tell, but you can see that the knee block is technically not centered on the knee rolls. You see a little bit more of a gap right here, as where the knee block is all the way down to the bottom right here. That's because the knee block was moved down 1/2 inch. So the difference between a 32 and a 33-inch pad comes in the boot length and the shin length. So a 33 chassis on a pad will basically have a 12.5-inch measurement right here and a 7.5-inch measurement right here. When you break down a 32, that has a 12-inch measurement and a 7-inch boot. So it's a 1/2-inch difference in the shin, 1/2-inch difference in the boot. It's not a full inch in the shin like a lot of people think. But when you're looking at this pad here, it has a 12.5-inch measurement, which basically breaks it down to basically be a 33-inch pad, but with the knee block moved down, it functions more like a 32, kind of 32.5, however you want to break that down. So this pad plays a lot like a 32 plus 2.5. And at this point in the video, I'm going to try to put up some measurement photos right next to me so you can see what this pad looks like compared to a stock 32 plus 2 7x3. So now that you can kind of see that little bit of a difference there between the stock pad, the retail pad, and a pro return pad. I hope you can kind of see that difference and understand how these are really playing on the body. So now I want to get into some of the other specs and some of the strapping modifications and tell you guys why I've been liking these pads. So when Scott was testing these pads in the off season and then finally got his set signed to use in the beginning of the year, he was testing a lot of different strapping options. So you're going to see some remnants of that left on the pad. You can see that there is the little slit right here for where a strap would pass through. And on the outside edge right here, you can actually see that there is a leather tab that was cut off of the pad. And there's some extra little stitching here, some stuff that was removed. So when Scott ordered these, he did order them with the leather strap that goes just below the knee. And then he had a behind the heel boot strap, whereas you can see it was cut off right here. And again, it was cut off right there. So Scott did order these with some more straps so he could play around with them. And I've even modified that further. So not only did he have the leather strap behind the knee that went down and the leather boot strap that were removed, he had the soft foam, which was here at the knee, which is basically what was on the Extreme Flex 2 pad. It went away on the CCM Extreme Flex 3, but it was stock on the eFlex 1, eFlex 2. Basically, it was a big piece that would stitch right here and run underneath the core lacing. I have since removed that, which is why you're seeing this super clean, pristine look right here. It's killing me that there's these two different versions of nylon color, but it is what it is. Scott ordered the white here. But I did just want to call that out, that I have actually, he removed this outer flap right here, and then he was just running the strap across. I'll try to put a photo of that right there so you can see it, or maybe a video. But also, I did just want to say that, I felt that there were some rotation issues when I personally wore them. So I have actually removed that part entirely. I did put this little Bauer ultrasonic knee wrap right here in case I ever did want to strap right back across the knee to try to have a little bit more control. But in some of the on ice videos that you'll be seeing here in a few minutes on that side, I actually just kind of left it hang up right here, kind of old Roberto Luongo style, current Vasilevsky style. So I'm just kind of letting that flap around, and it just goes directly under the core lacing. It's not pulling too hard, so I'm not really worried about that. But those are some of the modifications that were done by Scott and some that were done by me. The other one that I did want to point out is this strap right here. I actually did make my own nylon knee strap a while ago. I've been using this on a lot of different pads and kind of like having it around just to test. So I did some haphazard sewing myself. And I'm using this nylon right here. just because this pad is technically a 33 plus 2, and with the weird knee block kind of integration, I found that I didn't want my knee to stretch out, especially now that I'm kind of angling it down to the calf for some better rotation. So I wanted to use a nylon right here to kind of lock myself in place a little bit more, which is what I have been doing. So I did just want to call that out right there. Also, when we get down to the strapping across the bottom half as well, I have actually removed the bottom FRS. I don't use that. I just found that it kind of helps flare, kind of create an artificial flare to my butterfly a little bit more. So the looser the bottom half of the pad is, the easier it is to kind of close at the top. I know, a little counterintuitive for some people to think, but that's what I have found. So I've removed that bottom FRS. I still keep the top one here, and you can see some of Scott's gross sweat. You can see that two different kind of nylon colors right here. I always joked that he had acid sweat, and it just kind of stained a lot of things here. But yeah, so that's a quick look at the strapping. And one other quick little note I did want to make across the pad itself. I know a lot of people at this point are going to say, you know, you're complaining a lot about the white nylon. Why would an NHL goalie get white nylon, whatever? Scott did have an all black set or heavy black based set, and then he switched over to white. That was basically at the request of the Stars, so they did not want him to wear the dark colored gear. I was told that I could not wear dark colored gear, so that's why my Vaughn V9 set has been sitting here in the corner, because it is almost 99% black based. So Scott went with white. And yeah, white nylon gets dirty, but these were heavily used. He sweats a lot. It is what it is. I'm just kind of looking past a lot of that here, but I did just want to point that out. So now that I talked about the pad strapping, I did want to talk a little bit about their performance and show some on-ice video. When we get into the on-ice performance of these pads, I didn't have too many complaints other than just the size felt a little bit big. Again, I like a 32 plus 1, 32 plus 1.5, maybe a 32 plus 2 depending on the brand. So I really like that 34-inch kind of overall. These are a 35-inch overall, and I feel that extra little bit of overlap. So as you can see here in this video, as I'm dropping down to the butterfly, I'm getting a lot of thigh rise overlap, which some people might not really hate. They might want that. But for me personally, I like to use these pads more with the private group I skate with, some of the drop-ins I skate with. I don't necessarily like wearing these with the Stars. I did break them out one time in summer practices, but I just felt that the thigh rise was overlapping a little bit too much, and I was having a tough time making some of those higher level movements that I needed to make. So I do feel that the size is a little bit big for me, but other than that, they're insanely comfortable to wear. I get why so many people like wearing true pads. They feel so great on the leg. They basically hug everywhere you need them to, and I get why so many people are still using them. I feel very comfortable in them and don't really have too many complaints about the rest of the pad once I got the strapping kind of figured out. The other thing I did want to point out is that there's no special sliding surface on these pads. They're all Gen Pro. And after talking to Scott for a while, he basically said that he doesn't want a special sliding surface on the pad because it affects when he drops down in the butterfly to kind of tighten up. And I agree with him there that when you drop down, sometimes that special sliding surface will kind of roll out from under you because they naturally want to slide. And, you generate so much force when you drop down that you do start to slide a little bit. He wanted a little bit of a stickier kind of material on the inside edge so he could lock in. And then he just relied on his own strength, a good skate sharpening to really kind of help him push where he needs to go. I do agree that you really have to push hard when you wear these pads. I don't mind the Gen Pro sliding surface. I do wish it was weave, but that is something I did just want to point out. I'm really glad it's not Fast Glide. But now that I've talked about the on-ice performance of the pads, I want to talk about the blocker and go over some of the cool stuff with that. I did just, again, want to thank Scott for getting this blocker over to me. I'm really liking it here, and he did have a few left over at the end of the season. So if you watched my warm-up series where I did show that Scott was wearing Bauer gloves and true pads for almost all of the year, there were a few times during practices and the morning skates when I was out there with him that he would switch back to a true blocker just to try to get the right feel. But ultimately, he ended up sticking with the Bauer two-piece, which was basically their kind of bindingless 1X. I know for a fact he is switching back to a true blockers because he was getting tagged in the fingers quite a bit in the Bauer blocker. So interesting that there's a few of these blockers kind of left over, but I'm a big fan of true blockers in terms of the fit, performance, and everything else about that. You have a Suregrip palm with straight finger protection and just kind of like a normal tightness that's not loose or anything like that. So it feels pretty solid on the hand. There's no special modifications or anything done off of this. This is basically kind of like more like your retail true blocker. It is a 595, not the 615 with the half piece opening. So that's what you're seeing. There is the tag right here that tells you it's the 595. You can see the embroidery up here in silver as well. Again, no complaints on this blocker. I really like how it tends to move. It doesn't feel as, I guess, like soft or as pillowy as the G7 or the Axis XF, even some of my Vaughn stuff. It feels like, I don't want to say old, but it just feels like it's just like a blocker. It doesn't feel like it has anything special really inside of it. And again, I see why it's so comfortable. A lot of people like it. It just doesn't seem like it's like the most like, kind of like high-end piece of equipment that True offers. Again, doesn't necessarily feel like stiff on the hand, but it just doesn't feel as comfortable. Like I've worn Bauer blockers, the Warrior blocker, a lot of other ones that feel more comfortable on the hand, and this is just like blocker. Really just, it is what it is. Really like the rebounds and how they come off of it. As you can kind of see at this part right here, I'm really starting to kind of push my hand away, try to get things up to the corner. I'm trying to get away from angling my wrist down low and throwing that puck and the blocker back down. I really want to try to angle up. So huge shout out to Chris LaValle for putting some good shots on me right here. But yeah, so I'm really liking this blocker. So again, I really have no complaints on it. I know some people say a blocker is a blocker, but again, I think it's way more than that. No real complaints on it other than it's just, not the most comfortable one I've ever worn, but does it get the job done? Absolutely. Does it match? Absolutely. So I'm a huge fan of that. Now, I did just want to take a quick second to talk about the glove that you're seeing in this on ice footage, and then I'm going to talk about the full set. So this glove right here, I made it match the set, and I'm sure you're asking, what is this glove? Why does it have a Vaughn 5500 graphic on it? What's going on right here? So this glove I've purchased. I actually looked at the eBay transaction history. It was about like 5 years or so ago. And this is an Agatone 210 Series X glove. And for those of you that have no idea about Glenn Miller and Dave Agatone and the whole Vortec, Agatone, GDI saga, that's a whole separate kind of discussion. But this is one of my favorite gloves that I've ever used. I love Vortec gloves, love GDI gloves, love Agatone gloves, and I'm really happy I was able to find this one on eBay. It did have all the Agatone logos on there, but I've actually had this glove reskinned by Ian Roberts at ITR Hockey. Just want to give him a quick little shout out for helping remove some of the logos that were across the back of the tee, across the back of the hand, and redoing it in a white Gen Pro for me. I don't believe he's actually doing more refurbs and more reskins right now, but this was done a while ago, so I did just want to give a shout out to him. I have worn this glove before, like when I played with the Rangers alumni. I had a graphic on there just to match the ultrasonic gear that I was wearing. I've worn this in a few tournaments and other things as well, and this has kind of been one of my favorite gloves. I did make a Vaughn 5500 kind of graphic on here with Dallas Green Padskinz and a little bit of black kind of Padskins here. Again, just a small little thing to try to match a set, and I think it looks pretty solid here. Able to kind of get a few windmills here, so I really don't have many complaints across this glove. Again, not a full review, but just want to throw this in here because so many people are going to ask. But yeah, I absolutely love this glove. Big fan of it here. And again, I think it matches pretty well. So when it comes to using this set out on the ice, I really do like the True gear. I really like how it feels super comfortable on the leg. It feels just like, when I think of the word goalie pads and a goalie blocker, like this is what comes to mind. It doesn't feel super high end. It doesn't have all these extra bells and whistles, but it just gets the job done in the simplest sense of the word, for goalie gear. I think this is what does it. So I do like a little bit more bells and whistles in gear, but the comfort is here. I mean, I like it, and I get why so many other people are liking it as well. If I could change a few things on the gear, I would do a little bit of a smaller size. I'd probably do a 32+2, basically similar to what I was wearing in the 7X3 pad. I mean, I absolutely loved how that was feeling on the body. I would get a special sliding surface. I would try a weave inside edge. I wouldn't necessarily try their new kind of sliding material that they're doing. It looks just like Primo and Quick Slide, but I think that overslides a little bit. So I'd like to stick with just the regular kind of weave. Maybe even try Gen Pro on a harder edge on maybe like a PX4, but I'm really liking that here. I did have to modify the knee section quite a bit to kind of get rid of that soft foam and kind of get, kind of mess around with the FRS strapping a little bit. But once I got it dialed in, it's super comfortable. Again, Scott wore these pads strapped up so many different ways and tried so many different things to get them super comfortable on the leg. But I think that just kind of comes into Scott being a little bit of a goalie gear snob as well, that he really likes a specific feel and really wants the pad to do something very special on his leg. But that's kind of a quick little overview and breakdown of this true PX3 set. So again, very happy with how things have been performing on the set, and I'm very happy to continue to use it over the next little bit. You're probably going to see it staying here in the videos, and I don't really have any plans to sell it, so please don't ask me if it is for sale, but I am going to be keeping it and kind of keeping it in the normal rotation as I skate with a few groups that still wear the Stars color, so I still kind of want to break those out every now and again. But I'd like you guys to comment down below and tell me what you think of the white PX3 gear. Please ask me any questions that you might have about some of the true specs, whether it comes to the different models of blocker, the different thigh thicknesses, and things like that. Please comment down below and ask me about those. I did just want to say thank you guys for watching along to this video, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel, you check out all of my other reviews, and you get ready for the upcoming NHL warm-up series that I have coming out this season. My name is Dudo, and I'm the Goalie Gear Snob, and thanks for watching.